I just played every Call of Duty ever made, including the new Black Ops 6, so let's find out just how good these games are, starting with the first Call of Duty. Call of Duty was released in October 2003, and the most surprising thing is this game is literally 1 gig. Even Tetris is bigger than that. Everything you love about COD started with this banger. That immersive shock and awe experience, the squad-based fighting, even though your teammates here are about as useful in combat as Stephen Hawking, and the innovative AI, which today feels about as innovative as a toaster. I'ma keep it real with you guys though, this game did not age well. Look, I get it, the game's visuals were groundbreaking and advanced for the time, but so was Yahoo, and nobody's using those except for your weird uncle. Some of the weirdest things that just don't feel right today, starting with the funky mechanics. Aiming down the sights actually makes your aim worse as opposed to just hip firing, which sucks because you end up dumping an entire magazine into someone only just to have them get right back up again, and then you have to dump another magazine into them, which makes this thing feel about as cinematic as a Nigerian action movie. Being in a vehicle might give you a seizure. Throwing a grenade feels like you're just throwing a brick Nokia, and the trajectory is different every few throws, which might just be hyper realistic if the guy's arms are getting tired. Also, this is pretty interesting. There's only 1 movement speed for the entire game. Honestly, I have no idea what speed this actually is because it feels like walking, but at the same time, I'm outrunning everyone else. But the reason this game is so special is it was one of the greatest contributions in gaming history. Basically, this game is like the Big Bang for FPS games. But I would say the most incredible thing about this game that still stands the test of time today is the sound design. The sound design for Call of Duty was groundbreaking for its time. The sounds of gunfire, explosions, distant radio chatter were all meticulously designed to simulate the chaos of a real battlefield. But what's most interesting is that this game was developed by a team of 22 people. This was the birth of Infinity Ward. Just 2 years later, Infinity Ward comes knocking like the Kool-Aid Man with one of the greatest FPSs of all time. Released in October of 2005, Call of Duty 2 sold almost 6 million copies and became the most played game on Xbox Live. Compared to the previous COD, which was just exclusively on PC, now you could hear all the creative things people wanted to do to your mom. Xbox Live hit different, man. It also led to massive LAN parties that smelled almost as bad as an anime convention. But this game changed everything. Incredible graphics, much smarter AI, and accurate portrayals of Russian happiness. The fact that this came out only a mere 2 years after the first Call of Duty is just insane. The difference in graphics and just quality it's mind-blowing. The setting is still World War II, but the maps are much bigger. You can now play as 3 different factions, the US, the Soviets, and the British. But the thing this game did best, and I'm gonna throw hands over this, smoke grenades. The dynamic smoke effects this game introduced 20 years ago are no cap better than smoke grenades in today's games. There is a tutorial the same way there's flavor inside a Subway sandwich, but you're pretty much just thrown into the middle of intense gunfights. COD 2 also introduced the battle chatter system, which is where the AI shouts out situational updates. So the game feels more immersive and alive, which is actually a pretty accurate description of most conversations between German and Russians. The most surprising thing about Call of Duty 3 is that it looks and feels almost identical to 2. Probably because while the last one was developed by Infinity Ward, this one was developed by Treyarch in only 8 months. So even back then, they were still releasing DLCs as full games. The mechanics are the same, the guns are pretty much the same, the driving is still the same unholy, ungodly DMV fever dream that feels like driving equivalent of drinking Mountain Dew. This was also the first COD exclusively released on consoles. I mean, you could technically play this thing on a Wii, which is the true definition of suffering, where it looks like you're just having a stroke every few seconds just to make something happen on the screen. But the greatest thing that COD 3 introduced was sprinting. No more gliding around everywhere like you're some cat on a wood floor. The OG Daddy Modern Warfare, but it changed everything. The game sold 7 million copies in the first 2 months, won a bunch of Game of the Year awards.
The Game Award of 2008 goes to...
Who else but Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare?
The graphics were incredible, the gameplay was smoother, the movements were less clunky, but they lied. They say this is the game that introduced Captain Price. How do you explain this then? How has this man not been promoted in 70 years? But the best thing is, this Captain Price is voiced by the legendary Bill Murray.
Hello, my followers. I'm here with legendary comedian, movie star, Bill Murray.
And they finally moved away from World War II. By doing this, they laid the groundwork for the greatest game of all time, which is coming right up, but not before they milk that sweet World War II teat for another game. Oh, the game just started. Now, there are three big things you need to know about World at War. First, everything's changed. This time we're going to the Pacific Theater, which was arguably way more insane, and I'll talk about how World at War delivers on that in just a minute. Because second, the game gave us one of the greatest game modes known to man. Zombies. It's pretty simple. You just murk zombies, and then there's waves of more and stronger zombies. And third, the setting and sound design. The attention to detail is so crazy, you even hear scary things sometimes when you're just playing alone. There's lush jungles, destructible environments, a fanatical and aggressive AI, and Papa 24 himself, Daddy Kiefer Sutherland, voicing a character.
Miller, you're okay. Thank God.
This game is basically PTSD fuel that doesn't slow down and keeps you on your toes the whole time. It's hard to describe, but it's like going to an inner city 7-Eleven after midnight. You're clenching your bunghole the whole time. This game was a huge hit, but nothing compared to what Call of Duty was about to release next year. Only a few events in history have the ability to change the world. The fall of the Berlin Wall, the moon landing, and the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This game defined an entire generation. Hundreds of thousands of people either lined up or camped out the day before, with some of these lines stretching entire blocks, just so they could make sure that they got their copy. While the previous Modern Warfare sold 7 million copies in the first 2 months, Modern Warfare 2 sold 4.7 million copies in the first 24 hours. I mean, and by 2013 had sold a mind-blowing 22 million copies. You had more guns, spec ops, spawn campers, the birth of quickscoping, and entire organizations like FaZe Clan. And most importantly, you got this. You could call in a nuke. But let's keep it real, guys. We all know the best thing about this game was this. You could akimbo shotguns. What else do I have to say? And then something incredible happened. Modern Warfare 2 set the bar for what an intense, cinematic, action-packed campaign should be. The whole thing played like a Michael Bay movie, but with a good plot. There were some big problems. I love this because before you carry out one of the most shocking missions ever put in a video game, they ask you if you're okay with this. That just made 13-year-olds like myself want to play it even more. But not everyone felt that way. It was so graphic that Germany censored it and Russia just outright banned the whole level. The game made billions, critics and fans loved it, so Infinity Ward should be on top of the world, right? Two of the co-founders of Infinity Ward were fired by Activision and lawsuits following afterwards. Activision tried to reassure everyone that everything's fine and the next COD's not even going to be affected by this, right?
Call of Duty has become such a big phenomenon. We have millions and millions of people playing, every night. So we needed to do something that was outside of that norm. And that's where this concept of compete, customize, create come from.
They lied. No, not about the game, about the developer. They said they were going to bring in Sledgehammer, but they went with good old Treyarch again. They created a game so great that it wasn't even a game anymore. It's an emotion. The game takes place during the Vietnam War, throwing you in the middle of a spy movie mixed with Rambo and sprinkled with that CIA good. Yeah, they go full MK Ultra on you. Yeah, you start seeing these numbers throughout the game, and some dude is just yelling at you the whole time about what do the numbers mean.
The numbers, basically. What do they mean?
But the greatest thing about this game are the characters, which are actually more memorable and quotable than those inspirational posters that your teacher has hanging up in his office. The amazing thing about this game is that COD is turning out to be the opposite of the Fast and Furious movie franchise. The storytelling just keeps getting better and better with each installment. You probably didn't know the voice actors are Gary Oldman, Ed Harris, and Sam Worthington. They've been killing the voice actor game. This game has everything. Multiple endings based on the choices you make. The weapons are great. Zombies is back and even better than before. There's Easter eggs everywhere, and you get to do what even the real CIA couldn't do. Assassinate Castro, which must have been weird for the real Castro because he was alive when the game came out. But from this point on, things are about to change a lot. The last two Modern Warfares slapped harder than my drunken father, but what about this one? A few things you should know about this game. It feels like a more polished, less toxic version of MW2. Spec Ops is back, the maps are a little less creative but still good, and the campaign is fine with some twists here and there. But the greatest, or worst thing, depending on how toxic you are, they remove nukes. On the bright side, dude who brags about getting nukes can now leave some women for the rest of us. They also added a new mode called Survival where you get to fight off waves of enemies. But there's some serious drama going on behind the scenes. Infinity Ward was going through some seriously hard times. The core team and the leaders went out after a disagreement with Activision and created Respawn Entertainment. But the biggest mistake was releasing MW3 literally 2 weeks after Battlefield 3 and not having it be a better game. Even though it was a good game, it was nowhere near Battlefield 3. But something really interesting also happened right around this time. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't know how to feel about this one. This game is almost perfect. Some even say that this was the peak of COD. The community was not as toxic as a bucket of KFC in Chernobyl. It had the closest thing you could get to a balanced multiplayer in COD. Almost every map was good, and it introduced like new and well-balanced weapons, score streaks, and it came out around the time when it felt like not everyone was as sweaty as two rats smashing in a wool sock. But the game to this day is really controversial among the fan base, with some thinking that the campaign in Zombies is even better than the first Black Ops. But that almost doesn't matter because the multiplayer was so good. The absolute worst thing about this game is the price today. There's no way a 12-year-old game should cost full price. Make sure to click that subscribe and like button if you guys enjoyed this video because I got a lot more bangers coming out for y'all. According to a lot of people, this is where the downfall of COD starts, because things will get bad and really weird after this. I have to say this, guys, now that I look back at it, it wasn't that bad. It probably felt so bad because they'd set the bar so high with every Call of Duty before this. It felt like you went from buying Ferraris and Porsches to buying a dog water Ford Pinto with no windows. But this game really did something. It was a storm when it came out. People were acting like they would rather give themselves an enema with a cactus than play this game. The campaign is a mess. The multiplayer has more hackers than the NSA. And full disclosure, guys, even though I did buy this game and I tried to play it, not only did it crash every single time, but I also found out that hackers can do naughty things to me, even in single player. But save the hate and anger because this isn't the last time Call of Duty is gonna pull something like this on us again. Can Call of Duty redeem themselves? Sort of. There's a couple things about the game that haven't aged as well. The campaign, the exosuit mechanics, Kevin Spacey, and the supply drop system. But some things are awesome. The sound design is fire, the graphics are impressive, and the guns are creative. And then there is my absolute favorite thing. The first time I discovered this, I was just hopping around the map like a bunny. But this game started something that is almost universally hated. Maybe it's because they pump out CODs the same way Apple pumps out a phone every year. Barely any new features and overpriced. But Advanced Warfare is kind of like that girl you dated for like 2 weeks. It's kind of fun in the moment, but you don't really remember it after. Have y'all noticed how it's the same guy on every Black Ops cover just going through a different phase of midlife crisis? Things really get interesting at this point because it feels like every year they're just alternating between some version of modern, advanced, infinite, ultimate. That last one I made up, but it could very well be the next Call of Duty. But this game is legendary because of one word: zombies. That's why you buy this game. You buy it for zombies. You get bored with zombies, then you delete zombies, you start playing other games, and then one day you randomly start craving zombies, so you download it again. So there's this big trend, I guess it started sometime around Advanced Warfare, where when a new COD comes out, everyone just hates it. And then after a while, people are like, that actually was an underrated COD. I actually really liked that. It was a good COD. It is the best COD I ever played. But did you know that the reveal trailer for this game was one of the most disliked videos of all time on YouTube? Or you probably didn't know that even the CEO of Activision said, quote, "It just doesn't feel enough like Call of Duty." Probably because the game came out at a really bad time. COD burnout was at an all-time high and people were just sick of the futuristic CODs and jetpacks. But at least this COD tried to innovate with its setting. They really are trying something new and fresh here. And the campaign is fun, especially if you're into sci-fi and non-stop action. Everything from the opening sequence to the pacing to the space battles just honestly feels refreshing, if anything. Whether this is your cup of tea or not, you can't cap and say they didn't try something different here. But the craziest thing is the attention to detail, and the most unexpected thing is how fun Zombies is. It's surprising because good Zombies has become synonymous with Treyarch, but Infinity Ward did something really clever. Instead of copying Treyarch, they used the basic framework of Zombies and put their own twists on it. Now that I think about it, Call of Duty is actually like Mountain Dew. Sure, they make a lot of weird no one asked for, but at least they're trying something new. They've been naming their games Call of Duty, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty World at War, when really they should just be naming it World War 2, World War 2 again. I can't believe it's not World War 2. Yup, COD is going back to its roots, to the game and setting that it perfected and made it the powerhouse FPS it is today. So they're absolutely gonna murk this, right? Kinda. It had a bumpy ride at the beginning, but after some changes, it really started to come along. The campaign has its moments, but it's pretty short, and Zombies exists. I mean, seriously, nothing hits like this. It kind of feels good to be back where it all started with that boots on the ground classic gameplay, even if it's gonna be short-lived. Call of Duties are like Wendy's Baconators. Neither of them are really good for your health. You don't care because they're so great. The studio synonymous with Zombies is making another game. It's happened again. The game was just hated by everyone on release date, and now everyone loves it. Old heads will say the OG CODs are the best, and new heads will be like, nah, the new ones are better. But day one never mattered for COD. They always end up successful. The biggest change is that this is the first Call of Duty ever to not have a campaign. Well, it almost actually did. Treyarch was actually making a campaign, but around this time, something insane was happening. The Fortnite and Battle Royale craze was just taking over the globe. So Activision just kept denying Treyarch's concepts for a campaign and told them to focus instead on a Battle Royale. Eventually, Treyarch scrapped the whole campaign idea because launch day was only 6 months away. And instead, they created Blackout, which is COD's answer to Battle Royale. So let's talk about the 3 things you should know about this game. Number 1, Blackout. Unlike other COD multiplayers, you get to ride in ATVs, trucks, and helis. But the worst thing about Blackout was that it was competing with other much bigger battle royales like Fortnite and Apex. And while those are free to play, you have to purchase Black Ops 4 to play Blackout. So all of this greatly limited the player numbers. Number 2, multiplayer. If you were one of the few lucky ones on launch day who could actually launch the game without it crashing, the game was actually pretty balanced. Health regeneration required stims, and you had specialists again like in Black Ops 3. And it has new game modes like Heist and Control. And finally, third, Zombies. Zombies and Treyarch. I mean, that's the recipe for a perfect zombie game. The greatest thing about the Zombies is the Easter eggs. And if you're a masochist, you can also play Rush Mode where you fight off waves of zombies. But there's some big problems. This one felt like it gave you a paddle and then threw you in the middle of the ocean, filled with zombies. There were a lot of things to learn and remember, and with everything happening so fast, it just became overwhelming. Just a year later, the fans finally get what they want. A Modern Warfare remake. But they're not going at it alone. No. This is too important to mess up. They're bringing in Raven Software and Beanox, which sound like the weakest Power Rangers ever. So does it live up to the original? Well, the biggest things you should notice right off the bat. Number 1, everything looks amazing. The character animations, the environments, the lighting, even the weapons. Number 2, it's dark and gritty. The missions are tense, and the game pushes the boundaries of what a realistic FPS should look like. But most importantly, for a lot of people, this game delivered the goods. I mean, they even brought in real Navy SEALs and war photographers to consult them while making the game. The attention to detail is so crazy, you might not have noticed that this actually sounds like real gunshots. Because it is. They actually recorded real weapons firing at a range so that every sound was authentic. And during night missions, they even implemented a blue light filter so that it mimics the way your eyes adjust to the darkness. Even reloading is an experience.
These guys are Russian army.
Whether or not you like this game, you can feel, see, and hear the passion the developers put into this game. This was made with love. And honestly, that's a rare thing these days. It seems like there's two rules when it comes to making a Call of Duty game. Rule number one, it's either gotta be World War II, or rule number two, the enemy's gotta be Russian. So we're going back to the Cold War. Now there are some things you should know about the game itself. First, there's a level where you can finish the whole thing without murking anyone, and doing so gets you a nice little achievement you can bring up during your next date. Second, Daddy Reagan. Third, there are multiple different endings, and your decisions can actually lead to different outcomes. But the animations here are worse, and the graphics are worse because for some reason Treyarch decided to use the same engine as Black Ops 3 and 4 rather than use Infinity Ward's updated engine that they use in Modern Warfare 2019. Think of Infinity Ward like that Sigma friend you have who's always diligent and serious, and Treyarch like your weird fun uncle that you get wasted with and somehow you just wake up in Tijuana one day. Also, Treyarch zombies. Enough said. Now from this point on, things start to get really spicy because these next Call of Duties are some of the most hated ones ever. This one is special. Looking at the reviews, it sounds like people would rather get a colonoscopy from Bill Cosby than play this game. Oh, do you like cutscenes? Because there's more cutscenes in this game than there are ingredients in a McRib. But this is Treyarch, so the zombies must be good, right? On launch day, there was only one map, no wonder weapons, and no ray gun. Also, no round-based zombies, which wouldn't even be released until like 5 seasons later. But the greatest thing about this game that all history textbooks seem to forget is how important Snoop Dogg was to taking over Normandy. So the game is not very historically accurate, but there are some fun things. Gunplay is good, the matches are fast-paced, and they brought back World at War maps. And if you're into simulators, the game is also a vanguarding simulator. There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Call of Duty needing a 50 gig update every day. With Modern Warfare being a commercial and fan success, all Infinity Ward had to do was just continue the winning formula and just make a game that people wanted. So naturally, they didn't. The campaign in this game feels too rushed and too slow at the same time, and some of it just doesn't feel like it belongs in a COD game. For example, this campaign mission. What in the Donkey Kong is this? But one of the dumbest things about this game, it has more plot holes than a bagel factory. You spend half the game chasing down a bad guy, and after capturing him, you have to let him go because of some law. Even though in the mission right before this, you use an AC-130 to pulverize an entire Mexican town just to get him. The driving mechanics are just wacky and weird. Like the cars suddenly turn into some Tesla autopilot self-driving thing once you climb out of them. But the graphics are improved, and no, that's it. I mean, some of the maps are better, but there's still Flint, Michigan dog water. It seems like that's what the Call of Duty franchise likes to do. They rope you in with a high quality game and then tank the quality of everything and release a bunch of hot garbage for the next few years because they know that just like an addict, you're gonna come back and give them your money expecting every hit to be like the first one. The guns in this game have 50 attachments like sights and lasers, most of which are useless and not used by anyone. Modern Warfare 3 has perhaps the worst single-player campaign I have ever played. It's literally the first line of the IGN review, which gave this game an astounding 4 out of 10 and ranked it the worst Call of Duty ever. Worse than Ghosts! But Modern Warfare 3 was never supposed to be a standalone game. This game is literally a $70 DLC, and just like most Call of Duties before it, it was rushed. The graphics are a downgrade, the missions are so short and forgetful you think you have amnesia, but the weirdest, most mind-boggling thing is the story doesn't go anywhere. You spend the whole game chasing Makarov, you never catch him, and he doesn't even seem like a mastermind because all his plans fail. It all culminates into this Reddit post that describes the experience perfectly. But my favorite, dumbest thing about the campaign is this mission where they drop you in the middle of an apartment building, tell you to keep a low profile, and then give you a shotgun. That's like giving you a bowl of soup and then telling you to eat it with a rusty fork. But the most surprising thing about this game is how hard the multiplayer slaps. So is it worth 70 bucks? That's for you to decide. But it's not really the COD people wanted. Based on this survey, over half the people who buy Call of Duty care more about the game. But why would COD care when Money Printer go... Can we finally get a Call of Duty that has a good campaign, multiplayer, and zombies? Especially after this last Modern Warfare. The game finally launched, and the first thing you'll notice is how the soundtrack is a banger. And now, the moment that literally 54.2% of you have been waiting for. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, the campaign's almost perfect. I mean, it's not, but this is the best COD campaign in years. Maybe even a decade or more. The best thing about this game is that Treyarch actually listened to the feedback. The story is kind of like an 80s action B movie, but the characters, including the recurring ones, are pretty awesome. Together, you fight this group called Pantheon, who are a bunch of armored ninja-looking dudes who drop the best guns in the game, all while being hunted down by the CIA, who may be working with Pantheon. Black Ops 6 also gave us omnidirectional movement, but the biggest thing that people wanted from Black Ops for years, a good round-based zombies mode. So here you get two all-new maps called Liberty Falls and Terminus. Now this looks like it's gonna be a great zombies experience. It is fast-paced and really fun. It's the perfectly flawed zombies mode. So Treyarch is 2 for 3 now. Can they get that perfect hat trick? The most important thing to get when it comes to COD is that someone is always gonna complain. The player base for COD is so big and toxic, you'll never satisfy everyone. But there are some things that, if done right, everybody loves. The maps, for the most part, are great. You get small ones, you get big ones, and you get weird ones like Red Card. But my favorite thing is how almost every gun has a map to shine in. I mean, obviously, there are better guns. X4. But if you like being that contrarian guy who doesn't watch Friends or wear AirPods just because others do, then you can shine too while rocking your exceptionally mid SWAT 556. And the fundamentals have almost been perfected. But most of all, it's just fun to play. I have no idea what the next COD will be, but I know one thing, that I can look forward to being surprised again.